Hi everybody, I'm Johnny, and you're probably asking the same question I am. Why the fuck am I in the woods? Don't worry, we'll get to that. We're gonna have some fun with my buddy Ryan here. We're gonna build a fire pit. We're gonna try not to burn down this lovely scenery behind me, because as you may have heard, only pussies start forest fires. So this will be interesting. We're gonna cook a steak. We're gonna have some fun in the woods. And yeah. So let's get this party rolling. Why don't you step in and show the folks at home?
Hey.
He's the one who's doing all the work, don't worry. OSHA, back off.
Yep. So, like Johnny said, I stopped at the butcher. I got a couple of steaks. I don't remember what they are. I think top sirloin. I'm not sure. They're meat. So, I'm going to do kind of a deep fire pit because I stole the grate out of my oven because I couldn't find my other grate, which I noticed on the way out here is hanging from a tree. So, we're going to use this one because the steaks are huge. I'm going to saute some onions, and we're just gonna BS. Johnny's a comedian here from Minnesota, and been doing this
about two and a half years, really.
Yeah, 2.5 years, which is longer than I've been doing this stuff. So, just to let you know, this is going to be a little bit more adult-oriented video. Some swearing, as you've heard.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry about that.
It's
we
fine,
talking
man.
about it like, yeah, I'll watch my language right out the gate,
Yep.
dude.
Yep.
Jumped it.
Yeah, it's a thing. It happens. So I'm going to go ahead and dig the fire pit real quick, and then I'll gather some wood, and we'll get these steaks going and just kind of sit down and have a BS session.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to dig a hole, not for Johnny.
I don't mean to brag, but you're going to need a bigger hole.
If you're lucky, you might see my butt crack. That's something people love to point out. Oh, I seen your butt crack. No, you didn't. I have an extra long shirt. Rock or something.
Not for long. More wood for the fire.
Jesus.
So now, a hole this deep, that's going to be safe in a condition that we had today, right?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, because what I'll do is I'll get a fire going in there and get a good bit of coals. And then, once it's a good bed of coals, that's when I'll put the steaks on to cook it.
Right.
And then I'll throw this dirt back on and bury it.
So you're going to put the dirt on the steak?
No, just yours.
Okay. Hear that, Mom? Gets the nutrients straight from the earth like God intended.
Of course, I had to pick one spot with a big-ass root.
Oh, well.
That's a thing. Okay, whew.
There we go.
That is one hole. Okay. You're on.
Nice. Yeah, so one of the fun things that I've noticed with doing comedy, like I love doing it for the Steel Toe show that I'm on every Monday from 6 to 10 and Rockin' 101.7 out of Sauk Rapids, St. Cloud.
And on Twitch.
And on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/Steel Toe Show. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry, distracted by a man handling wood. It's just a good time.
It happens.
But yeah, so with comedy in the area, like one thing I really love and appreciate, like I get out more now to do it in the cities, in Minneapolis, and in a lot of places, like I have to tell people, like I joke about what happens with my MS and my ED and all that stuff, and people will laugh at me here, like in this area and some of the more rural areas, but like when you get to Minneapolis, like and things like that, people don't know who you are. They're actually afraid to laugh. We're just like, oh, you know, So they're going, oh, I can't shower because I'm going to fall, and I do my Mission Impossible bit. And someone's just like, eh. They look at me like they need permission. Like, is it okay? I want to laugh, but I also don't want to go to hell. Like, those two don't have to be, you know, singular things. You can do both. You can laugh at a man's pain. And that's one thing I love. Like, I went even further south into Rochester, performing at Goonies, and some of my more rural roots from southern Minnesota, and that kind of comes back alive. Apparently that's more of a rural thing, just not giving a shit, or at least being willing to laugh at someone else, and realizing that, you know, sometimes comedy hurts, but sometimes pain is funny. And more importantly, if you're not going to laugh at it, what the fuck are you going to do with it? Ooh, I might have F-bombed there. We might have to... We'll take a minor pause. I kind of muddled it.
Huh?
I said I kind of muddled it.
Yeah.
We'll clean it in post.
It happens. It's the thing.
Yeah. Well, we did a little spiel, so we can always just chop that off at the end there.
I'd like to do this toast.
You know, you could have. Well, I suppose you have plenty around here, but I'm just saying, I have, not to brag, folks, but I've got a lot of wood. I'm not even kidding. I have crap loads of wood. I have been having fires in my little fire pit every time I can. Just because I'm like, we gotta burn down the supply, we're already making more.
The big issue is trying to find some damn birch bark. You seem to have stripped all these trees.
I feel like there might be a little on the back end there.
Yeah. This right here is a really shitty tree, buckthorn. So when I was a kid growing up, they did, oh, don't peel the birch bark off, it'll kill the fucking tree. So if you get these little pieces like this,
Yeah.
it doesn't kill the tree, because the tree is like a snake, it sheds its skin.
Yeah, so you're actually helping it.
Yeah.
If you peel it too deep and take fresh bark.
Yeah, if you do that, then yeah, then you're a bad person. So there, this should be enough. That buckthorn sucks. Another thing I do too. Get it like that, so it takes a good spark. I'm gonna pan this camera down. There we go. So what's your hopes once this COVID shit's over?
I want to get back to doing my comedy stuff. I
Yeah.
had a show, like I said, 2 days before I was going to do it. And I haven't, like we were saying earlier, I don't believe in a single thing of this COVID stuff. Like, I don't think it's real. I've been through worse. I think the rules are too convoluted. One thing's okay, but another thing's not. And if you've been dealing with stuff like I have for a while, you look at all of it and go, well, why does any of this matter? It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's more about, like, giving people a false sense of security. And I simply questioned whether we needed to do it at all, but certainly I don't believe in the extent that we've done it to. So I'm anxious for things to open up as soon as possible. The big thing for me is I want to get back to doing the comedy shows. I have a lot of comedians I've met in the cities, in southern Minnesota, in the St. Cloud area, like, that don't get into shows or don't get out as much. Like, they do little showcases in the comedy scene, and unless you're one of the people that cruises that scene, you might not have heard of them or seen them.
Right.
And I want to, you know, I want to give them a night to shine, see what happens. Same thing happened to me. Paying it forward. We smoke out?
Yeah.
Need more birch?
Yeah. I thought that was plenty, but evidently I was wrong.
Oh, these leaves look waxier. I'd say we could use a couple of them.
Well, you know, leaves work okay,
Well, I just mean in conjunction.
but yeah, the big problem is they burn so damn quick. That should hopefully be enough. I forgot that usually I break all the little twigs up first because you need fuel to start it.
And you need primary embers.
Smaller, bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that part.
I light stuff on fire all the time, too. Apparently, Aaron burns buildings down, if you believe the rumors. I have heard nothing to the contrary.
Right. Hold on. Okay, we're gonna try this again. Sorry, I was listening to Johnny and forgot to do a bunch of shit. There we go. Okay, small branches first. So, just one day you decided, hey, I'm going to be a comedian?
No, I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. I wasn't talking. I didn't want to distract you.
Oh, no, you're fine.
All right. No, I've been doing this since I was like 5 years old and stuff. I used to watch like Johnny Carson and things like that, and SNL. And it started it all originally with just cracking jokes to my mom while she made dinner. Right. She would work a long day and she'd come home and make dinner for 5 kids. So I was literally trying to entertain her all the time. And that's where I realized I loved to do it, and it became just the thing I did more and more. I was kind of a class clown in high school. Straight out of high school, I wanted to do stand-up comedy. I actually did an Eagles cancer telethon in 2003 that was so bad, like, because that was like my first time ever doing comedy in front of a crowd. Like, some people start with an open mic. I started with a live television performance. And so I went and I did that, and it was so bad that I literally sometimes joke that that's why God gave me MS. Is He's like, no, we need to help you. You need something to talk about, sir. Let me help you. So yeah, it started there. But when I got multiple sclerosis back in 2004, like I had it in 2003, but it got serious in 2004 when I moved up to St. Cloud at the end of 2003.
So you got it from St. Cloud?
No, I got it before I moved up. I noticed it. Now that I look back on it, I noticed that I had some issues with my foot back in Rochester, like right before I moved up to St. Cloud in October 2003. And yeah, so it just I put a lot of things on hold because of that.
Right.
And so I had a lot of different plans that I was going to execute. One of the things I was strongly considering at that time, I was talking to my brother, I was really considering joining the military. Again, for the whole, like, I wanted to do comedy, but I felt I needed to have some experiences first.
Right.
Because I'm just a kid who grew up in the country who, like, make jokes. So I was like, yeah, I got to do something. And so that was the thing. I was going to do comedy after I had some sort of experience or whatever, or I was going to move out east or west and just work at doing comedy and hopefully have experiences while I was out there. I don't know. I hadn't really decided what I was going to do, but MS showed up, and that was scary in and of itself, because when it happened, they didn't know what it was at first. Like, they sat me down and like, all right, it's either Lyme disease, multiple sclerosis, or brain cancer.
Really?
And we're hoping it's the middle one, because if it's either one of the two on the end, we can't do anything about it. Like, we can't do it if it's brain cancer because the tumors are inoperable. Lyme disease, there's not really much we can do. Right. So if it's multiple sclerosis, there's at least treatment options. And it ended up being multiple sclerosis. And so I was fortunate in that regard. But then, like, I literally just put everything on hold for a while. I'd done comedy for maybe 6 months when I stopped. And then, like I said, I did one television performance where, and this is the effed up thing with that. So I auditioned to do it, and I did, like, my jokes, my material, and they loved it. And they're like, oh, yeah, the only time we ever have comedians is when we have magicians whose tricks don't work. And I'm like, that's funny for a whole nother reason. It's called schadenfreude. And so they're like, yeah, that's cool. We'll have you come on and do jokes. Keep it PG. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, how much time am I going to get? They're like, well, we'll give you 2 15-minute performance spots. And I'm like, 30 minutes? Holy crap, 30 minutes on TV? I'm like, Jesus. Yeah. So I'm preparing. I'm ready. Night I show up. They're like, okay, schedule's going behind. We're bumping you back. You're not at 11. Now you're going to be closer to 11:30 midnight. And we're taking you from 2:15s to 2:10s. And I'm like, cut 5 minutes out of my material. Then it's like a half hour past when I'm supposed to go goes by. Like, all right, we're going to have you going up for your first spot in a little bit. And I'm like, dude, it's almost like 1 in the morning. And they're like, yeah, we're going to be cutting your 2:10s to 2:5s. And I'm like, oh, crap. So all my material doesn't work now. I literally did my versions of other comedians' jokes. It was that bad. And it was, thank God, at like 1 in the morning. Like I said, this whole thing was so bad that I'm like, if there was a reason I ever contracted MS and it was ever my fault, that night was why. Just because I did those jokes and that way and everything, it is horrible. And it's just Eagles Cancer Telethon 2003. Find it. I dare you.
I'll look on YouTube.
There's here's the fun fact, folks, and here's a little tidbit. It's not just me. It's me, my older brother, and my sister. We all perform at that thing, and we all suck. They sing, I do comedy. It's hilarious.
Nice.
For all the reasons it shouldn't be. But yeah, so it's just, that was the weirdest effed up thing ever. And I took my break after that. Like, I did open mics at, there was a club called, I think it was Knuckleheads in the Mall of America back then. And so I did like open mics there a couple times, and I was like, oh, I like this, I'm gonna do this. We're spreading.
Yeah, it happens.
Alright.
I'll keep an eye on it, don't worry.
Well, after the intro, I feel like if we start a forest fire. Yeah. That's good. But yeah, it's just, comedy was kind of what I always wanted to do, and it just, like, I always did weird and goofy shit. My parents, oh God,
you're fine.
Doing it again. This doesn't feel like a show. Like I'm out in the woods. There's nobody here. I'm like, who cares? But no. So
that
like
was my hardest thing when I started this YouTube shit was
just realizing
I'm
that
talking to myself.
Oh, I do that all the time. but yeah. So it's fine. But yeah, by comedy stuff, like my parents did all sorts of weird stuff, and so like. At one point, they rented, when we lived in Rochester, they rented a studio, and they were filming something. I don't remember what. I just sat at the desk. No, it was a professional, like, this is when they were doing CGI stuff, so I think they were doing, like, blue screen effects things. Anyways, so they had, like, a news desk there, just off to the side, and there was a camera pointed at it. Nobody was filming it. It wasn't a thing. I just sat there doing news stories, like I was on the SNL news desk or whatever. I apparently had my parents rolling, and they're like, oh, if only we could have recorded it. And I'm like, oh, you F's. Like, this is like, he was young and he was great, comedy gold. And you're like, oh, if only we'd recorded it. Yeah. And that kind of followed me for a while. My graduation, I was becoming more and more of a class clown, but I was still very much an unknown because I was one of the Po kids in Rochester. Rochester has, a lot of wealthier families.
Right.
So the poor kids don't necessarily socialize with the rich kids.
Yeah.
And so, at any rate, it is what it is. But at the end of it all, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have fun with this. I started saying I was gonna streak out of my graduation after I got my diploma. And at this point in time, I owned a 1989 Pontiac Grand Am, a 2-door with a sunroof.
Nice.
So I had the ideal vehicle for doing what I was threatening to do. And I don't know if it was because of me or if it was just procedure, but either way, they didn't give out the diplomas and the booklets simultaneously. You got the booklet publicly, and you had to go into the gymnasium and get your diploma.
Really?
Yeah. Which, again, I don't know if that's what their just normal MO was, or if they did that because of the rumors, but that was awful damn convenient.
Hope you don't mind dirt on your onions.
Yeah, we'll survive. All the bad stuff will cook off.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, I normally do like campfire brats. So
all right on.
I'm used to char and stuffs. But yeah, the graduation, I decided I can't streak, but I gotta do something. I told people I was gonna do something. And so people are like, what are you gonna do now? They're not gonna let you streak. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'll figure it out. And so my sister's boyfriend at the time had a giant troll mask. I mean, like, ginormous. Like, you looked like a toddler if you wore it.
Right.
So I put that on and my gown. So I'm walking to the parade. And as I'm walking around, the place, like, I went to John Marshall, it was a bigger school. And so there were, like...
This is down by...
This is in Rochester, Minnesota. It's down by the Mayo Clinic and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so they had, I think, over 600 people in my graduating class.
Oh, wow.
Not including the night school, I think. Or something like that. I don't remember. There was a lot. It took a while. But at any rate, I go down to the graduating parade thing. And on my way down there, I'm wearing that mask. And again, the school's called John Marshall. It was named after a Supreme Court Justice, John Marshall. And this is one of those stupid things that the schools always do. They make you learn the history of the namesake. Like the guy had a personal investment in it or something.
Wow.
And so I knew that. And so I'm walking around, and people didn't know who I was under the troll mask. So people kept asking the obvious question, "Hey, who are you?" And I'd walk around and just went, "I'm John Marshall, and I started this damn school over 60 years ago to get a good education." And then, so I'm like, I was walking down, and I just kept looking at people getting in my way, and I'd be like, "You're wankers! You're all wankers, every last one of you!" And I just kept saying this stuff and doing this stuff all the way through it. People kept guessing who I was, and they were guessing the more infamous people. Like, nobody guessed it was me, which was the hilarious part. But also now looking back on it, sadly disappointing.
Right.
I should have developed my name. The brand could be strong. But yeah, so I've just been doing crap like that ever since. My brother recorded the whole thing on a high-def digital cassette recorder. But he wanted to be very, very professional because he worked at KTTC back in the day. There's an Easter egg for you. Now, if you go back looking for that video, call letters. Anyhow, so he worked as a cameraman and stuff, so very, very proud of his craft. And he was considering doing photography and things, like Warzone photography and stuff. So, so he wanted to put a boom mic on, really capture the sound. But the numbnut didn't check the batteries. And because of that, because he didn't check the batteries, and this black lady interrupted him. Because he didn't check the... That's my medication.
Oh.
Because he didn't check the batteries, the whole video has, like, no sound.
Really?
So you just see me walking around and in the mask, and so the whole video is useless. And once again, it's like if we had recorded it properly, this would be like, I would have like footage of like people like, "Why do you want to apply to this comedy festival?" Because this is what I was doing when I was 5. This is what I did when I graduated. This is what I'm doing on stage now. This is a thing. So like, let's get on the bus. And yeah, so that's what we're doing. Like, I met Adrian, and he got me back into doing comedy.
How long have you known him?
I met him because of Outpatient.
Oh, okay.
I had a very dark time in my life.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And so I was very, very like less than a week briefly hospitalized.
Yeah.
And then when they let me out, they're like, "All right, now that we got you on meds, you came down a lot. Like, we want you in an outpatient program so you can really work on you." And so that's what we did, was outpatient. And in that program, like, I was skeptical the whole time. I had plans of it. I forget the term of it, but I was gonna pretty much go back to what I did the first time. Like, I was just like, whatever, we're just gonna finish this journey. And so everyone's just like, "Oh, well, you know, give this a try. What do you need for your life to work?" And I finally was like, "I want to get back to doing comedy, but that's never gonna happen," and blah blah blah. And one of my therapists goes, "Well, I can get a hold of Adrian Washington. And what do you say you sit down and talk to him and see what he has to say about all this?" And I was like, "Right, you're gonna get a hold of probably, at this point, the most famous comedian that I know in the area.
The biggest one.
It's like the biggest one in the area. You're just going to call him and be like, 'Hey, help me.'" I didn't realize how much outreach stuff he does.
Yeah.
And so that's what he decided to do. Is she called him up, and I still want to see that phone call. Like, I want to see like on a split screen on both ends, where she just calls. She's like, "Hello, Mr. Washington. Hi, I'm blah blah blah," and because I can't name her.
Right.
And it's like, "I'm blah blah blah, and I work in an outpatient program, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to come meet a patient of mine." And all of his outreach stuff, a lot of it is with like youth.
Oh,
And so I imagine like he gets phone calls. He does stuff with schools. He does stuff with autism.
Yeah, autism. Yeah.
And he has his own, or he donates a huge portion of all the money he makes to a Minnesota autism program.
Nice.
And so yeah, he does a lot of amazing outreach stuff. But the funny part is, like, I imagine, like, because he's used to doing a lot of outreach with kids,
Right.
he just gets a hold of me and or not a hold of me. He gets a hold of my therapist and goes, "All right, so yeah, I'd be more than willing to come down for an afternoon and talk to him and help out. How old's the boy?" And that's when she goes,
Right.
"You know, he's 37 years old." And he's like, "What the?" You know, and like, I don't help adult white people. Like, I can't fix them.
Right.
You know? Or I don't know what he would have thought I said. But the point is, I'm sure he was much more professional than that.
Right.
My point is, I imagine that must have been a shock. But he came out to me, he met me, and at that point, I was still using my walker, not this one in particular. I have an aluminum one I used to use in public.
Oh, okay. Yep.
This one's more long distance, and it functions as a seat. And then if you have to take a dump, just lift the seat. No, that is not what that bag is for.
Oh.
It's not a colostomy
Hey, look
pouch.
what I did today, guys.
Why is Grandma squatting in aisle 5? Because she has some business to take care of. But yeah, so I imagine that must have been interesting. But when he met me, like, he came to me, talked to me, we were laughing, and he's like, "Hey man, I can tell this is what you love to do, that's just who you are. I got a show this Friday. Would you do 5 minutes on stage? I was like, dude, if you give me 5 minutes, I will F up those 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the exact right attitude to have. I'd be more than happy to have you on. So I did that show, and that went rough. Like, I have that one recorded too. That is rough. Not bad, but rough. Like, the first half of it is really like, my buddy coined it best. He's like about halfway through, it's almost like you can see the rust fall off, and you start getting back in the moves. And I'm like, yeah, a little bit. And that was perfect though, because then he's like, hey, I've got this other thing. I got a steel toe show. And I was like, steel toe show? And he's like, yeah, why don't you come do 5 minutes on that? And so I went out, and that one was in St. Stephen, I believe. Yeah, Trobex in St. Stephen.
Okay.
And so I go out to Trobex in St. Stephen. Aaron doesn't know me, never met me. And he was just like, whatever, Adrian wants to bring somebody out to do 5 minutes. That's fine. We're not paying him.
Right.
And so I get out there, and I'm just happy to do the time, and I kill it. Like, I've got that recorded too. That is a beautiful performance. And the room loved it. I did great. Aaron comes up after me, and he's just like, Adrian never said he was bringing an actual effing comedian. I got to follow this guy? That's not fair. And so then after that, we talked briefly. I told him how I had television and radio production training, because I did television production training in high school, and I did some radio production training at KVSC in St. Cloud.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I'm not, like, accredited or I don't have a degree.
Right.
But I'm also not just like, oh, what do these buttons do? Like, I'm in the middle of the field, enough to be dangerous. And so he was like, yeah, we'll get you on. And I'm like, okay. And I kind of took it as like, oh, he's just saying that because he's being nice to me. And he didn't really, I don't know if he would have followed through with it or not. I didn't give him the chance. Like, a week or two later, I left a letter for him at the station. Be like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. I'm that guy. I did that stuff. And I was willing to be like another second mic. And then when the whole him and Max thing went down, I went to go, because they're all like, come out and support us. And at this point, they don't know that I've been doing steel toe stuff at all. And I'm like, oh, they're like, hey, how'd you come here? I was like, oh, well, I heard about it from Adrian and Aaron. And they're like, oh, we don't like Aaron. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how that went. And then so they're like, oh, we got this showcase, Laughs at the Loon. Why don't you come to that? I'm like, okay. So I show up to that. I'm sitting in the back of the front audience section, but the last row of the front seating seats. And Max walks up to me, and he's trying to make me kind of like nervous. He's like, you ready for your set? And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm ready. Oh, let's go. How much time do I have? He's like, oh, whoa, man. I was just kidding. But no, dude, we'll totally get you in one of these, like maybe the next one or something. And then he goes up on stage. He does his stuff. Aaron shows up. And when I see Aaron, I just go, hey, you get that gay love letter I sent you? And he's like, yeah, dude. And I was just like, well, get a hold of a brother. And he's like, I'll get a hold of you. And then that whole night went the way it did. And at the end of it, just to, I don't know what, he pulls me on for his little live stream. He's like, this is a comedian in there. It's really funny. His name's Johnny K. He was with us in St. Stephen. And so he starts giving me props live on their stream thing.
Right.
Max and the others see that, and they're like, are you related to that guy? And I'm like,
You do
no,
kind of look alike.
not anymore.
No.
I've strived to differentiate.
He looks like a skinhead.
Well, no. Well, now. Well, yeah, with the haircuts, we're definitely different. But that's like, I didn't start wearing contacts again just so we didn't look alike, but it was one of the benefits where I'm like, because
Right.
people are like, are you his younger brother? Like, Aaron's younger brother on the air, and I'm like, I'm older than he is. Like, I'm 3 or 4 years older than the man.
Right.
Like, but that's the funny thing too. It's just like people are like, oh, are you related? What's the deal? They're like, oh no, I know those guys. I did that, I did this, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. And then shortly after that, Aaron's like, hey man, you've been itching to get on the air. I got an opening. Money where your mouth is. Here's your shot. And I'm at the station. I do it. And I think it's going to be a one-time thing. It ends up being a two-time thing. And then Whiskey Pete takes a vacation. He's like, Johnny's our sixth man. He's going to fill. And so I fill for Pete for 6 months. He's like, F that. Johnny's on. We'll figure out the rest later. And like, when Pete comes back, we'll address it. And so it just became a thing. And I was so happy to do it. But that just kind of, I don't know. It soured things. Ooh, that's some meat.
I always brag about my meat.
But yeah, it soured things with the local comedy scene for a little bit.
Yeah.
Tensions rose on both sides. I had my own hand in it.
And I try to listen to the show every day, but
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I love the show. I started out as a fan first. My ex got me into it. She used to listen to it at work, and she's like, you know, you love comedy stuff. This show's pretty effing funny. And it was after the infamous Nurembergers bit. She came home and she's like, you needed to listen today. Oh my god. And so then that's where it became more of a thing where I started listening. And
I'm touching your meat with my fingers.
that's fine.
Okay.
I used to be a chef. If you think rubber gloves help,
They don't.
they do if you change them after every little thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's what I love about you go to McDonald's now during the epidemic, and you can tell they've had the same gloves on all day because they're stained.
Or because they're doing the sweat crinkles.
Yeah.
That's the other one I don't like. I don't like seeing your rubber gloves clinging to your hand because there's so much moisture in there. I feel like if you dip up, I'm getting extra sauce. Like, that's not cool.
Right.
And on top of that, like, I understand it's a working environment. Like, I'm going to you to make my food. I'm putting a certain level of trust in you. But if you think a little piece of plastic is going to stop stuff from spreading, no, it just means it won't spread on their hands directly.
Yeah.
Until they rub their eye or their nose or something,
Yeah.
or wipe the sweat from their eyes.
And there's just too many, like, natural reactions that you don't miss. Like, I don't know, man. I worked in a professional cooking industry. I don't see how what we're doing has a purpose. It's just all it is.
It doesn't. This is all a show.
Well,
That's the way I look.
I think it was well intended at the beginning. I'd like to believe that anyway.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe it was just good intentioned. Hey, we don't want this to go crazy. We don't want to lose people. We don't have to. We don't want to overwhelm our medical system. But I think very quickly when we saw how fast people polarized to no matter what, we gotta focus on this. No matter what, we gotta do this. Like, we gotta support the nurses. We gotta stay at home. When people realized how quickly some people be like, yes, take my rights, take my freedoms.
Yeah.
Close small business in the favor of big capitalistic chains that will obviously do kickbacks to me to get what they want done. Like,
Yeah, and that's exactly it too. Is you know, they did the stimulus package, and Target and Walmart took it all.
yeah,
You know, and hell, they want this to happen.
yeah, it's
You
great
know?
for their business.
Yeah.
Their costs are lower than ever. Theft is down
Yep.
because of the way they're regulating that stuff.
Yeah.
And their employee costs are down because they have less people that they need to employ.
Yeah. I went to Home Depot yesterday, and I shit you not, I get in line, which was great because there was a right in front of me. That's an ass.
I'm guessing.
Okay. And it's just it's so asinine how they're doing this shit. And I actually managed to run into the store manager because I was given wrong information about how to get to the plant aisle.
Mhm.
And you know, they're super short staffed, and to an extent it's kind of comical because the small businesses are shut down.
Right.
These big Home Depots and Walmarts and Targets and all that crap, they are open, but they're getting their asses handed to them because of this virus.
They're still making money hand over fist. Especially with the lack
Yeah.
of competition.
Yeah, there's that. You know, there's in the
And the economic force of price rate. Well, I suppose, but then they're paying more on the shipping end, so that's probably a wash.
yeah, shipping's stupid. But yeah, it's I can't wait till this shit's over and life gets back.
Well,
to
that's the
normal.
thing. China now is saying this is going to be a seasonal thing. Like, it's going to be coming around.
I heard that, and I read a article this morning. They expect this to be going on the next 2 years.
Ugh.
Just the social distancing, the lockdowns, all that bullshit. The next 2 years, that will completely wipe out the economy. You might as well find a bunch of land.
I mean, honestly, at that point, if you're going to do that, like sitting there saying, like, oh, well, we don't want people to die, and it's like, I don't want people to die either, but you realize that
No.
but that's the thing, though. You kill someone's small business. Like, imagine, let's put my scenario in a business situation. You've wanted to run your own business, say Pottery Barn, whatever, for how long? And you finally start doing it.
Right.
Start to get it going. You're about ready to do your big grand opening. There's actually a nonprofit I work for that fits in this very scenario. They have been waiting to open their doors. They had one hurdle to cross, another hurdle to cross. They dotted their T's, they crossed their I's, they did a fundraiser, they got people involved. And it's a non-profit cause for helping kids. And right before they're about to do their grand opening, we're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Is this place even going to make it now? Are they even going to open? They don't know. Because they still, like, their landlord still wants their bills paid.
Yeah.
Everyone still wants their money. Verizon didn't say, hey, you know what, why don't you put your bill on hold? My child support payment didn't get put on hold.
Yeah.
It waited it waited a couple weeks. That's what I got. I got a momentary extension. And that's fine. But if the rest of the world is going to demand it's $20, then you have to be allowed to make your $40. You know, you can't sit there and say, oh, I'm just going to pay out to everyone and just sit on my hands.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, is, like you said, we did the bailout. We did the package, like, oh, we're going to help small business. The stuff was gone overnight, and most of it went to large chains and large businesses. The loopholes were conveniently there where all these corporate chains who are still allowed to weather this, maybe they're not profiting. Maybe, oh, we're not making record profits, we're breaking even, or we're coming in a little over.
Yeah, but you already have billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah, but you had a water tank to reside in.
Do you remember when this first started and Trump? Now, I'm a Trump fan. I love Trump.
Right.
He's funny as shit. And personally, I think he's doing a great job with the economy. Not right now, but before. But when he did his first puppet show, who did he invite on stage?
I don't remember.
The CEO of Walmart, the CEO of Target, and some other big chain.
Right.
The assholes that are going to survive this regardless.
Yeah.
And then now you have, I can't think of any small businesses, but all these small businesses that, you know, they're already closing doors. My sister lives in Michigan. She was the top person for a restaurant called Ruby Tuesdays.
Right.
Okay, they're like Applebee's. Have you never heard of Ruby Tuesdays?
Yeah, I know Ruby Tuesdays.
They shut her store down permanently. So
yeah,
now,
but Ruby Tuesdays is also still a chain.
Yeah.
It's a smaller one, but
Yeah.
that's
But
the,
yeah, hers in my hometown of Gaylord. Make the jokes.
yeah.
Michigan. Yeah, they shut it down. So now she gets to collect unemployment for a year and you know, stay home and be a mom, which is great.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just the outcome of this thing is just going to destroy this country.
Well, that's the other thing too. I said since the beginning, I'm like, I'm worried we're overreacting, and I'm worried more importantly, the cost of that overreaction is going to be greater than the cost of an underreaction.
Right.
And
How do you like your steak?
usually I'm in the medium rare category.
Okay.
Doesn't much matter.
Good, I'll flip it once.
I was raised on a family of folk who like it bloody. We used to joke my sister would go into a field with a lighter and a fork. I'm like, that's all she needs.
Yep.
It's still beating. I don't care. I need my meat.
I've actually eaten raw meat before.
Oh, dude, I used to do it all the time. I worked with a cook named Shay, who, when he used to do lamb chops, because you dress them up real pretty, you cut the ends off.
Oh, okay.
So you got the bone on the end. Well, there's a lot of drizzle, but little tidbits of meat in there too. He'd take little tidbits of meat that he's going to be throwing out anyway and just pop them. I'm like, dude, it's raw meat, and he's like, yep, and it's good.
Yeah. I actually, whenever I, like, if I make beef jerky and stuff like that, because I, excuse me, I'm doing a lot of shit that, because I'm tired of shopping at Walmart.
Right.
You know, I'm tired of going there for my meat. That's why I'm buying half a cow.
Right.
I'm tired of just people in general. Like, I hate large crowds. My anxiety gets going.
Yeah, and now every Walmart's a super center.
Oh, Jesus. And it's a frickin' joke if you go in there. I go about every 2 weeks. But a lot of my stuff I'm doing is homesteading. You know, I come out here, I collect berries every fall. Well, midsummer, late summer, whenever the hell berries come out. I make jams, jellies, ice cream toppings, stuff like that, because, you know, I'm a fat kid. I have walnuts that grow in my backyard right by my house. I collect those. I can eat them the way they are and do other things with them. All these oak trees, the acorns, I can collect those, dry them, grind them up, make flour to make bread.
Nice.
I bought more chickens because my other ones got eaten by not me. I'm going to eat their unborn children. One of my favorite things to do. So I'm doing all this stuff to get away from those big ass businesses.
Yeah.
And to get away from the people, ideally. But, you know, that's why I planted my garden and everything.
Yeah.
And the way I could see this going, those are awesome skills to have right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, if now, my deep down personal belief is this is the fake news and the Democratic Party trying to derail the election. That's my opinion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, old people with lung disease and stuff like that should be worried.
Yeah.
But this thing is an overreaction. That's my opinion. But in case I'm wrong, you know, there's deer out here, there's turkey out here. I can get there's all kinds of wild edibles and stuff like that. Like, I'm gonna go looking for 2 kinds of mushrooms, ones that grow in that stuff, and other mushrooms, morels. I'll probably actually do that next weekend. But, you know, it's just how everybody was willing to just give up on everything and go, okay, yes, sir.
I'm still pissed that people aren't fighting back against it. Because
they are in Michigan.
Well, they are in places, but I mean, like, even just locally, like, because this is the thing, like, I was skeptical with the whole social distancing 6 feet thing.
Yeah.
Because a good sneeze or cough can travel, the microbes in it can travel well over 6 feet.
Yes.
In stale air. With a breeze, if this thing can live in the air for any substantial amount of time, I mean, have you ever been downwind of a guy who farted down the street and you're like, oh, Jesus?
Yeah, I do it to people in Walmart all the time.
Yeah. Have you ever been crop dusted? Same difference.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the other thing, too, with the whole masks. That's another reason, like,
Yeah.
people are like, oh, well, if you won't wear a mask, it's like peeing on somebody. If you wear pants. And it's like, that's not how that works.
Right.
Liquids and gases behave totally differently. And by the way, yes, am I a retard who had advanced science classes who's schooling you on how stuff medically works because of his experiences? Yeah. And should that maybe concern you that maybe some of this is BS? Yeah, because I'm dumb enough to be, hey, you're not following the rules.
Yeah.
Even if you do. But yeah, like, here's an example. There's social distancing squares or circles in all these stores now. I went to Quick Trip the other day. You have to maintain a 6-foot distance between. But here's the thing. Quick Trip measured out the distance 6 feet to 6 feet from the center of one dot to the center of another dot. Mm-hmm. So just you being more than, no inches wide means you're breaking that 6-foot rule.
Yeah.
And if that weren't enough for you, the social distancing is only at the checkouts. Which means if you are impatient and you have to get your money right now and you go up to the ATM, which is currently being used, so you go to the one next to it, you're within a foot of a person.
Right.
And there's so many places and spaces where it's like someone was just there and you just entered that space. If they coughed, if they sneezed, whatever, you walked into that cloud.
Yeah.
And again, here's another thing that people don't realize. CDC says the only reason you should wear a mask is to prevent spreading it if you are symptomatic. But again, one of the problems is people who have this are asymptomatic, no symptoms.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are people spreading it who they're totally fine.
And that's kind of the problem. Excuse me. So, when this shit first started, I'll admit, I was one of those people going, oh my God, we're all gonna die.
I didn't even think that. I thought I was done for, but like I said, when I heard just out the gate, when I heard how this affects people, people that are affected, I'm like, unless you live in a super dense population area where you can worry about severely sick people giving it to you. But again, the minute they said that one of the things is people who get this show no symptoms, I was like, then this isn't a problem.
No.
It's certainly not a problem we're shutting down the economy for. Could it cost us people? Could it be sad and tragic? Yes. But
that's life in general.
But again, it's not worth what we're going to pay in the long run doing what we did. And even now, there are doctors saying that this social distancing thing is actually bad for your immune system, and this will make us more susceptible to more stuff going back into it, which is another reason why I'm like, you know what? And I think I'm living proof of that. I used to have MS flares and attacks all the time. I'm more active than I ever have been, and in the last 2 years, I haven't had any real last year I had that relapse that was quelling, but other than that one big flare because of my medication, That's another thing with me. When you change medications, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And now we might have to change my medications, not because it isn't working, but because, well, it lowers your immune system in COVID. And I'm like, F that. If the medication doesn't pose a risk to me, I'm sticking on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Why?
We're starting, like, in order to avoid the forest burning down, we're starting a brush fire, but we're doing it with a napalm bombing run. Like, it's like, and you realize we're actually taking out more this way.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a funny story. I'm like a guy that sees a squirrel. In Michigan, the DNR said, hey, we're going to do a prescribed burn to keep the forest from burning down. They burnt an additional 24,000 acres and 17 houses. Yeah. And that's kind of how this thing's going.
And that's the other thing, too. I don't mean to make it about me, but getting into it, like, just when it started, I have no faith in the government anymore.
No.
Like, I went through so much crap with disability. There's so much crap that I still deal with disability. I'm actually, like, trying to establish some sort of career or thing that I don't need to be on it if I can. Like, and that's just one of those things where the DMV crap I went through the last couple of months, like, they made their rules so ludicrous, and they almost took my license away after I got it.
Jesus.
And here's the reason why. Because when I got my license with my condition and everything else, I had for the first 6 months or year or whatever, I have to have insurance. I can't be an uninsured driver because I'm an at-risk driver or something.
Well,
I don't know.
Technically, you can't be an uninsured driver anyways. But
Well, no, but I mean, they won't let me have my license without insurance. They wouldn't let me take my test unless I was insured.
Unless you already had it?
Unless I had insurance. I was paying for automotive insurance, but I was paying on my parents' policy as an additional driver, so it cost less.
Right.
But I was literally an insured driver before I could drive.
Jesus.
At any rate, I did that, got my license, got my own car, got insurance on it. Decided, because the cost was pretty much the same and everything else, I would just get full coverage because I could afford it. And I was like, might as well. My career's looking up. Things are looking good. Full coverage.
Yeah.
So that should be right. That should be great, right? No, state, because I switched my insurance over, was like, we're going to have to take away your license for violating the terms and conditions. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, this isn't a CD contract. Like, I called them. They're like, well, it says here that you were a liability-only insurance for my parents' car. I won't say what they drive.
Right.
And I was like, yeah. And then I switched my policy. They're like, yeah, but you no longer have liability coverage. I'm like, yeah, I have full coverage. That's better.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, well. And because of a clerical error, and somebody was too dumb to realize one policy ended and another one was set up to begin,
right,
and they literally overlapped, they couldn't process that I got better insurance, and so they just said, oh, well, your liability policy ended, so you must not have insurance.
Jesus.
Even though they got sent, it's called an SR-22, they got sent the form that says, hey, better insurance, different car, full coverage, here's your info. And they just couldn't put one foot in front of the other. Sorry.
Jesus.
And it took me half a month to resolve that issue. And if I hadn't been on the ball of doing it, I had about 30 days from when I got the letter to resolve it. So if I hadn't been on the ball, like calling every day, if I had a life, like a lot of people do, very easily could have temporarily lost my license because of their clerical error.
Yeah, and that's the way it always is with them. It's,
but that's the
sorry,
thing.
we made a
Not
mistake.
to cut you off, but hospitals are the same way too. That's one thing I've learned. As I was talking to you before, I've learned that, doctors will be like, well, let's do this. And then another doctor who knows more will come along and be like, oh, they tried to kill you.
Right.
And so, with this whole COVID thing, I have yet to hear a story of someone who dies because of medical malpractice. Like, and amidst other horrible news, somebody died because, doctors effed up. Somehow every COVID death is unavoidable, and we did everything we could, and we did everything right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that just seems like we're all just like, hey, everything's perfect, everybody. And again, for me, like, unless we have a run on the hospitals, open back up. Like, that's what we were avoiding. We weren't avoiding deaths. We weren't avoiding people getting infected. We were avoiding overwhelming our healthcare system.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we threatened the economic system, is because it was for the betterment of the healthcare system and presumably the betterment of the country as a whole.
Yeah.
And The healthcare system is laying people off. My friends who work in healthcare are furloughed. They are not working because there's nothing going on.
Yeah,
because
because they're
appointments
not
are
busy.
canceled. I have issues, both dental and medical, that I am supposed to address that were supposed to have been dealt with by now.
Yeah.
But they're on hold because we're not doing anything at the moment.
You know, here, I'm going to sound like the news media. This tooth right here,
Yeah.
I broke the back half of it off probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And because of COVID, I can't go get it fixed. That's how the news is.
Yeah.
But in seriousness, yeah.
I don't really care because I went to a piss poor dentist when I was a kid. We used to actually call him the welfare dentist because if you didn't have insurance, you went there and they did it for cheap.
Right.
And he pulled my 2 wisdom teeth out, actually 4 of them, because he says I needed to, although I didn't because I have perfectly straight teeth and they're perfect gapping or spacing, everything.
Mm-hmm.
When he did that, I have no feeling in my lower jaw. So I think that's why this tooth doesn't bother me. You're getting the green plate.
Okay.
It's got a cigarette burn in it, I'm guessing. I found this in a car at work.
I found this rag in a bathroom.
Yeah.
Smell it. But yeah, it's just in general like I said, I don't trust that it was as serious as everyone says.
No.
And as someone who's at risk, like I've lived my life at risk for quite a while now, I'm like, you guys realize the rules you're doing are bogus.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that because I want my job back. I'm actually doing relatively well, like for the most part, because of Aaron. I'm sitting at, and Aaron and the bailout check.
Yeah.
You put that back in, that kind of refilled the coffers from what I was losing. So like I said, I'm like in a middle of the ground place.
Right.
And I just, like I said, I don't believe it's as serious as we were told. I don't think we should have done all of this. And I don't think these convoluted back and forth rules will accomplish anything. So I'm just like, why are we continuing to make businesses suffer?
Hope you're hungry. I got a fork and a knife for you here too.
Yeah, I just realized I didn't bring utensils.
Yeah, it's housewares. I did wash them.
That's fine.
I didn't. I don't ever do videos with people.
It's normally just me.
Yeah, it's all about me.
Wanted to have.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit on the ground.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that too because there's no way I can do this.
Want me to hold that for you?
Yeah, that might be nice for the transition.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not.
You want me to sit your steak on this couch yet?
Nah. I mean, it's petrified, but.
Yeah. Just the camera real quick.
Now people can get a look at my hands, right?
Yeah. Yeah, ass cracks where it's at, man. That's the most commented thing I have is people looking at my ass. Oops, wrong button. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Okay, where's this cow shit right here? Not sure I've sat in worse. So what's your big plans after this crap? Is that done well enough?
Yeah, it's fine. Apparently tried to swallow and breathe at the same time. I don't know if I'm qualified to eat a steak. I apparently can't stay alive on my own.
No, after the COVID stuff blows over, which it better, like people better come to their senses. Otherwise,
Yeah. I think they will.
I've already lost my mind and had like mental slips, and like I've gotten over most of that. But if this stuff continues, like I don't do well shut in. Like for me, being locked in was like, hey, remember those 15 years where you're like, I can't slip back anymore? And then they said, hey, you're slipping back more. I immediately did something drastic. Yeah, this kind of same thing. So I'm trying to get out like crazy. That's why I was eager to do this. And then like I'm going out and I'm doing stuff publicly all the time. But I'm also, as soon as this stuff lifts, I have the show that I did. Because, people bought tickets and they're holding on to them. They want to see that show.
Yeah.
I want to bring those comedians out. Zach Ashton is a guy in the cities that I met in Rochester before he went up to the cities. And I honestly have never seen a dude make me laugh so hard. Like, I love everything about him performing, and I think people need to see him do stuff. And then my buddy Jonah's pretty funny, and he's going to be at that show. So I'm like, I really want to get that show going, and then after that, it's just doing another show. In an ideal world, I'm doing at least one comedy show a month.
Sorry, too much meat in my mouth. So, yeah. Do you have, other than your Facebook, what other means do you have for people to find you? Have you contemplated Instagram? Or
I have one of those, yeah.
Okay.
I have an Instagram and stuff. I haven't been pushing the social media thing lately.
Yeah, because social media sucks.
But just because there's also nothing to do.
Right.
Like, I'm not gonna...
Hey, here's me sitting on the couch. Hey,
well,
here I am again.
I put pictures up on my Instagram. I publicized my Instagram and my Snapchat, and, like, I'll even throw the names of them up on this just to make sure
definitely.
I quote them right. I'll pull it out and double check. Because, you know, if there's one thing I've learned as a retard, Captain Jean-Luc Retard, that you should always double check, because you can never underestimate the efficacy of stupidity.
Yeah, my original email address I created for this YouTube channel, I misspelled my name.
Ah!
Yeah, how the hell do you do that?
But yeah, so my Instagram, how do you get home? Home's where the buffaloes are. My Instagram is Johnny.JustKidding. Just Kidding is kind of the thing that I do with the comedy shows. There's the Just Kidding comedy shows. And that's because it's like, my initials are JK, they always have been.
Right.
And I don't like my last name. If you can find it, good for you.
Crutches?
No. No, I'm not going to say my last name, because I don't like it.
My last name's Outdoors.
Yeah. But yeah, so I went by Johnny K, and Corey's the one who gave me the last name of Crutches. Because he was on air, and he's like, who's this new guy, Johnny K? And what's with the K? What does the K stand for? Crutches? And I was like, oh my God, that's gold. Because up to that moment, I'd been considering, when people asked that question, I was going to say, the K stands for cripple with a K. And they'd be like, you don't spell cripple with a K. I was like, I do, because I'm retarded. And it was like a little joke. It was like a little fun. But Johnny Crutches just kind of sounded like a mob name, and it just worked. And I'm like,
right.
It just had a little bit of a ring to it. I'm like, Johnny Crutches is better than Johnny Cripple. And I don't want to be crippled forever, so we won't do that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, literally, Corey gave me my last name, if you will.
And that was when you started the Steel Flow show? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I don't want to sound like a dick.
Yeah.
I didn't know you until then.
Yeah, that's fine. Nobody did. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, I'm not a big, comedy scene guy.
Yeah.
I don't go out much. I'm kind of a recluse.
I wasn't even in the comedy scene very much at that time.
Oh, right on. So you're going to be putting on your own shows?
Yeah. I had one at Bees on the River in Watertown. That's the one that got canceled. Mm-hmm. And so first and foremost, I need to make sure to get those comics and those people their show. And so that's that. Then I'm looking around in St. Cloud. I got a couple places I'm interested at and talking to, a couple that I haven't talked to yet. Again, I'm holding off on all this because I wasn't actually ready to do the show, Bees on the River, at the time. And a buddy of mine was like, hey man, do me a favor, put on this show. And I was like, okay, I'll put on the show. And I was going to do it. He's like, you going to talk about it or are you going to be about it? I'm like, all right, I'll get off my butt and do it. And so I started doing it, and I jumped over all the hurdles that I was nervous and worried about. So now I'm ready to do the show, and it got canceled.
Right.
And so I want to do that show to get it done. And then after that, it's just like I said, another show every month. I want to be performing in a lot of areas that don't usually get comedy shows, don't usually see comics. Like, I'm not looking to set up a show in the cities. Like, don't get me wrong, if someone says, hey, I've got a comedy show, I'm willing to pay you, I will perform. It's kind of how I work. But I'm not like, oh, I got to get into the cities and I got to get in the Minneapolis scene. Like,
right.
I'll go there and I'll perform. But at this point, for me, it's performing in front of a crowd, and more importantly, because I have a daughter and a family to take care of, unfortunately, it's about getting paid for doing it, too. Right. Like, I'm not big on money, and that's one thing Aaron's like, you got to be about the money, you got to be about the money. I'm like, I'm not really about the money. Like, I love just doing it. But Adrian makes a good point. It's that, you spending time and energy to do this, whether you love to do it or not, that's time and energy that you need to have something happening for your family. So you can't just say, I won't worry about the money, because your daughter needs to eat. Your bills need to get paid.
Well, that's my thing with this whole YouTube thing. I was excited when I got monetized, because all of a sudden, hey, I can start making money.
Right.
And I want to make money at this, but it's not because I can't afford to buy the new gear. that I need constantly. You know, that camera was almost $400.
I'll believe it.
Excuse me. You know, I my real job, I make really good money at it. Damn burps. That's a thing. People are like, oh, you burped on your thing. Yeah, people burp. It's a thing. You know what else? I fart on my videos. And I'm fat.
We'll clean it in post. Which, the video or your shorts? Both.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't sharded, thank God. But you know, I hope to, you know, hit 10, 20, 30,000 subscribers down the road, because the ad revenue will help pay for the new gear.
Right.
It'll help pay for the trips. You know, I wanted to go up to the Boundary Waters again this year before the shit happened.
Oh God, that's 1.5 miles of paperwork just to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to have because that's a no impact camping trip. Everything's got to be disposable, biodegradable, or you got to take it out with you.
Yeah. I did one last year.
But it's beautiful countryside.
Mm-hmm. So it's called the Powwow Hiking Trail.
Okay.
It burnt down back in 2012, 13, something like that. And all these volunteers, because the government went, we're not taking care of it anymore. So all these volunteers went out there and they're like, hey, we opened up the trails. Bullshit. What was supposed to be a 36-mile hike ended up being just under 50 miles. And because I wasn't thinking, I had 90 pounds strapped to my back.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, I literally, towards the end, because I ended up getting super sick, and I think it was from throwing up so much, because every time I drink water, which I was treating my water,
right,
every time I drink it, 10, 15 minutes, I throw it right back up. Well, I think I tore something in my stomach, and then the last day when I was trying to get the hell out of there without having to call for help, which I didn't, I toughed it out, I was throwing up blood. So, yeah, that was a lesson learned.
That was a fun trip, folks.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I couldn't hold anything down, so I didn't have to worry about explosive diarrhea.
No,
How's your steak?
It's delicious.
I always tell people once they put my meat in their mouth, they'll never go back.
I always say the same thing. They always misinterpret me. They think I mean they'll never go back to anything else. No, you'll never go back to my meat. That's a mistake you only make once. Why didn't you say that? Because it sounds better my way. That's fine.
Yeah, I raise pigs in the fall, and then I have them butchered. I smoke a lot of meat. That sounds wrong.
Put it in a pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, I smoke a lot of meat in the good way. That's still something.
I smoke a lot of
I smoke pork tenderloin, and oh my God, is it good. I don't think I can finish this steak.
I don't know if I'll be able to, honestly.
I didn't eat all day because I'm like,
Neither did I, but the point is I don't eat a lot anymore.
Yeah.
I'm working on, like I said, lowering the weatherized exterior.
Yeah.
The winterized exterior.
Actually, I did the keto diet a while back, and it's pretty much pure protein and fat. That's why I use real butter when I cook things.
Right.
And I actually managed to drop, and I was eating a shitload of cheese, eggs, vegetables fried in butter, and steak and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I lost 20 pounds in a month.
I've been all right with my weight loss. Like the thing with it is, for me, like I've been eating less and less. Like I've been doing it's part of the meditation stuff I do, which has been of a big help to me.
Really?
Yeah, it's called Qigong. I don't know that I'll go on to that, but it sounds ridiculous. It sounds preposterous, but it works. Mm-hmm. So I do it. But yeah, there's facets of it if you choose to, because it's a very do what you want kind of thing. Right. That are like temporary fasting periods and stuff. So I started kind of doing that where I intermittently fast, and I found that's been good for me.
Right on. Yeah, I need to do something.
But it also means that my stomach's gotten smaller, so it can't hold as much as it used to. And I used to eat because I was a hockey player and stuff back in the day. I used to pack it away, and now I'll be like, I'll see something I like, and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna have a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I'm halfway through, I'm like, I'm not even a man.
Yeah, I'm like that with pie. Like, oh, I'm gonna eat this whole fucking thing, but I do. That's the problem. So, I think we're gonna end this here,
Okay.
and I'll let you eat or whatever. Take a break, and then we'll do the live chat. So, you want to say any last thing for the video portion?
I'm Johnny, and I don't know where I am. No, man, this was fun. Thanks for having me out. I've never cooked a campfire like that. That was cool. Steak was tasty. It was good meat. It was a fun hang. So.
Yeah. No, I had a blast just listening to you go on, and not stop. Yeah, this isn't my typical video. Like I said, I never have people, let alone semi-famous people.
I'm not famous, but okay. I'll take it.
We'll get you there.
I have a delicate ego, so I needed that.
Yeah, mine's as big as my gut. So yeah, no, this was a blast, and you know, I'm really appreciative that you came out. I really am.
Fun.
It popped in my head. I'm like, hey, I should ask these guys if they want to come out.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You're the only one that actually did, so that's a plus.
Well, I'm sure Corey and Aaron. Did you get a hold of Aaron, or? Although, to be fair,
I'll comment off air.
To be fair about Aaron, I don't blame him for being. You know, last time he just ate random meat. It didn't go well for him.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. No, this is fresh.
Yeah.
And I've eaten worse. I've eaten roadkill before. That's a different subject for a different day. So, all right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed. Maybe down the road we can do something different. But see you next time. If you haven't already, please subscribe.